So my name is Farina, so we're just going to go through here real quick and hope that give a little presentation. I've been working here for a while. I do security research. I get bored a lot. I've done a lot of things, a lot of people to a lot of other people. I work on a lot of open source projects. I work on mostly hacker tools. I'm an Eagle Scout, worked on a whole bunch of embedded development, a couple of different Linux distributions. So today we're going to talk a little bit about automated wireless intrusion prevention. Right? So we've been talking about what the AirTight devices can do for the social Wi-Fi and the guest Wi-Fi and the shiny new square boxes that happen to do AC. And I mean, that's all really well and good, but I've seen a few of the tweets. Some of you might have been, I don't know, earlier today connecting to the Las Vegas airport, some hotel in San Jose. And this is a room full of Wi-Fi experts, yet here you are randomly connecting to unencrypted networks that are probably nowhere near here. Saw a couple of you break out Insider, got a couple of warnings on the WIPS system telling me that you were all trying to figure out where all these spoofed SSIDs were coming from, and I'm willing to bet that not a one of you found it because there were no spoofed SSIDs at all. We weren't broadcasting a single SSID in the air. We were just responding to what you were doing, and we'll kind of go through and talk a little bit about why I think that's funny as heck and how AirTight actually saved half of your devices but not the other half. You might have noticed that if you connected to one of the AirTight SSIDs, that device was inexplicably protected from that. It didn't happen to those devices. It happened to your cell phone that you never logged into our social Wi-Fi with. Food for thought as we go along. So as we look out, we've got a couple of different AirTight devices in the room. We can take a quick look at the devices screen. This is where the whole power and beauty really starts to come together. So here we have a list of all the access points that are in the airspace. Right now I'm cut off on the side of the screen a little bit because this projector's a little tiny, but we can see we've got something in the neighborhood of 100-something access points in the airspace. Okay? Of those 100-something access points, the vast majority of them have nothing to do with what we're doing, right? We have a very short, small setup of access points here. Being a wireless company and a wireless security company, we've only got like 30-something access points running in the building. So there's a couple up here, there's a couple downstairs in our office. These are what we call authorized devices. You whitelist these devices. If you're using AirTight, it obviously comes in automatically. These are what we're trying to protect. This is what everybody's concerned with. These are your devices, right? If you're not running AirTight, you can import these as a list, or we can actually go through and do a WLAN integration. So most of our customers are running some of the larger vendors like, Cisco, that'll have a controller that we can just click on here and we can pull that controller. We can turn on the integration, we can add a controller, and we can just give an IP address, an SNMP read string, pull in all the authorized access points. Really important because if you have a list of your authorized access points today, it's probably going to be different in a month. Because realistically, if you deploy more than about 5 access points, some of them are going to break eventually. It's just, reality, mean time to recovery, these things, they break. So you replace them with the integration with the controller. You don't have to worry about it. We automatically pull in those new devices. Nothing changes. Everything's all set for you. But in addition to the authorized devices, what else do we see in the airspace, right? The number one thing that you see in the airspace is what we call external devices. So of the 100 and some odd in the airspace, we have 128 of them are external access points. These devices are in your airspace, but they are not connected to your network in any way. They belong to your neighbors. You can see them. Insider picks them up, but they're not a threat to you. Okay, that's really the big takeaway. The ones that are the threat to you are what we call rogue access points.
How do you know that they're not, though? And that's the difficulty.
That's exactly where we're going. Give me 1 second. Rogue access points are what actually is a concern to you because they are connected to your network, okay? This one is showing as inactive. This is not currently connected to anything. It's not even powered up. So we're just going to wipe that off the screen. And we're going to pull in my 3 test access points that I have up here. I already heard a couple of snickers of not a rogue. I have great taste in random SSID names. So we're going to pull in D-Link. So we see here, there are 3 D-Link access points in the airspace. 1, 2, 3. These are cheap little garbage USB powered throwaway travel adapters. If you saw one, it was probably 5 years ago, and you really shouldn't use them anymore because they're really, really garbage. But what they can do, very simply, is be a really, really low performance access point. So if I plug in one of these to my network, we're going to actually detect that it is connected to my network and is now a problem. The way that this works is that the AirTight devices that we have here are plugged into my wired network as well. The AirTight devices are wired devices. It's going to send a broadcast frame onto the network, and it's going to come out of all of the access points that are connected to the network and bridging. Because that's all a bridge is, right? A bridge in a Wi-Fi access point, one end is Ethernet, one end is wireless, and all it does is take packets and pass it from one side to the other. Right? Very, very simple procedure. So once about every 3 minutes, that AirTight device is going to send a burst of those packets. It's going to bleed out of the access point. You notice I'm explaining this twice because about 3 minutes means I have to dance for at least 90 seconds, otherwise there's no chance this is going to work, right? So now that I've danced...
Question, what if you're doing something like broadcast, like blocking broadcast forwarding on the Rogue AP?
If you're blocking ARP traffic, then your access point's not going to work anymore.
Well, if you're blocking ARP, but I'm talking like...
This is an ARP packet.
It's an ARP packet.
Yeah, it's an ARP packet. So if you're blocking ARP, your access point's not going to work. There's not really much of a concern from the Rogue.
But there is both unicast and broadcast version of it.
So here you see, of the 3 access points, one of them, real Rogue, has magically turned red, is now classified as a Rogue access point. Okay? Really quick, really simple. I plugged it in front of your eyes. I sang and I danced. Okay, I didn't really dance very well, but I sang, and there it is. Quick, simple, accurate. Not much I can do here to trick you. You can see my whole screen, so you get the general idea. Once we've found that Rogue access point, you can actually see that my nearest sensor is probably blinking because we have automated intrusion prevention set up so that the first time it detects the device as a Rogue, it's going to immediately start knocking clients off of that access point to make sure that nobody's able to connect to that device.
Hey, Rick. Quick question, is this all dependent on same subnet type stuff?
So the broadcast stuff is dependent on same subnet. Hemant's going to give a little bit more of a deeper detail, but the general idea is since you're deploying so many of these everywhere, it's easy to cover the subnets. When places where you have lots and lots of subnets, we can actually throw it onto a trunk port and do hundreds at a time.
What about a Rogue that is not on your wired network? And
then
like
that's not a Rogue in our parlance.
Right. I mean, kind of semantics, but there could still be a threat.
We'll get to that.
Forming a man in the middle or...
You are 2 minutes ahead of me. Let me catch up. I promise we will get there.
Right.
So this Rogue access point, we can see real quick. We can grab a quick location tracking on this guy. So he's the Rogue. And again, my screen is just a bit too tiny. And if we bump up our resolution a little bit, I said up. Dude, where'd you get this mouse, China? All right, well, you can see that it's generally up at the front of the room, and if I bump the accuracy up, it's going to fold down back to the front of the room where you can see to within about 3 feet where that Rogue access point actually is. Once we do a location track on the current location, that's all well and good, but what about a device that wasn't there when you got back to work? So we can actually go through and we can look at this device made an event in the system. So if we jump over to the event screen, we can find that Rogue access point, and we can see that not only does it have a current location on the location tag, we have an event time location for every event that generates. So you can do location tracking in real time, or you can do it event by event. So if somebody plants a Rogue access point in the middle of the night, takes it out in the morning, like the cleaning crew perhaps, you can actually do a location track, say exactly where that was, what network it was connected to, everything's all set. But I can sense that a couple of you aren't hugely impressed by all that. I mean, sure, we just did a Rogue detection in 2 minutes, but you know, we can move on, try to do something a little more important. So what about no Wi-Fi environments? What about client devices, right? Clients are very, very important. There's bring your own device. Everybody's got, whether it's permitted or not, 2 cell phones, an iPad, and a laptop. All of these devices have a wireless card built in. I mean, you even take a place like the Pentagon where it's obviously going to be a shop where you're not supposed to have Wi-Fi, but think about all of the tours that come through. Just from the tours that walk through that building of civilians with cell phones, they're seeing thousands of different clients a day in government agencies that are completely no Wi-Fi environments, right? It's very pervasive. There's Wi-Fi everywhere. Even if we didn't allow Wi-Fi in this building, you could all be using Wi-Fi right now because Google's kind enough to provide it to you. Okay? So this is always an issue. So what we're going to do is not just classify the access points, but classify the clients as well. I'm going to breeze through this because it's really complex. If you connect to an authorized access point, you become an authorized client. If you connect to a guest access point, you become a guest client. If you connect to an external, you become an external. Anybody iffy on that? Whatever kind of access point you connect to, that's what you become. It's really critical to know which clients belong on your neighbor's network versus which ones belong on your network, because the ones that belong on your network we can control with an iron fist. That's why half of your devices were not getting phished by my rogue access point, but the other half were. Because as soon as you connect to my authorized network here, the AirTight has been set to defend you, to make sure that you stay only on the network that you're supposed to stay on. So if you're connected to something called WFD6 _ whatever, go ahead, turn on your cell phone's hotspot, try to connect to it. You won't be able to. Okay? We're actually blocking you from connecting to anything but us while you're in this airspace.
By sending deauth?
Absolutely, by sending deauthenticate packets.
And is that something default out of the box?
It is an option that requires one check to turn on, but obviously you don't want to be randomly spraying deauths when you first install the system. It does require that authorized access point configuration.
Pushing people towards, because obviously there's the traditional risk if it sounds like this system, you know it's on the network, yes, that's fine, but there's obviously that case of...
We need to be better friends because I'm literally talking about that next. So the realistic threat scenarios here that we're talking about, okay? Rogue access points. Who plants a rogue access point, okay? My name's Rick. I talk at hacker conferences. I was wearing a black shirt, but they made me put on a white one. I do not break into buildings and plant rogue access points because I am too little to go to jail. I get traded for cigarette. It's not cool, okay? That is too risky. Who really plants rogue access points? You all seem to be Apple fans, right? So let's talk about the marketing department, Got to go out to lunch, gonna stop at Best Buy, gonna buy the brand new iPad 4, and the guy says, these work best with the airport extreme access points. You should have one. Hey, that's a great idea. So they buy the iPad, they buy the airport, they bring it back to the office, they plug it right into the network, they plug it into the wall, and woohoo! I set up my own Wi-Fi network, right? That's where rogue access points come from. Legitimately and honestly, we have never seen an intruder break into a building and plant a rogue access point. It's the cleaning crew, it's your staff, it's the guy in high school who makes $7 an hour at the retail counter. Hackers don't break in, right? What you're worried about in reality, things that happen thousands of times a day, are policy breaches. And I've seen dozens of them in this room because you are all willing to connect to unencrypted access points just to get free internet. Okay? You connect to Las Vegas Airport, you connect to the neighbor's guest network, you connect to whatever you connect to, but if you are at the office and you're supposed to connect to the authorized network, the wireless network, the wired network, whatever it is, you're supposed to get filtered, secured, firewalled, virus scanned, scrubbed, cleaned, cleansed, whatever it is, internet connections. But maybe you want to go to Facebook or something like that, so you log into the neighbor's guest network. Or maybe your computer's set up to automatically connect to Linksys. Benjamin, thank you for that one. If your computer's set up to automatically connect to Linksys, every time you're in range of, 36% of access points in the world, you're just going to automatically connect. Whether you meant to break policy or not, you are going to break the policy, right? The automated prevention protects you from these accidental and intentional threats from your inside people. But that's not the fun part, right? We came here to talk about real security, so we want to talk about evil, scary hackers in black shirts. See, I'm in a white shirt, I'm not evil and scary. So we do little things, right? We set up things like evil twins and honeypots. So if we go back to our little list here of access points, we can find the ever popular Bigger Hammer. Now, Bigger Hammer is my access point. This is a Wi-Fi pineapple, which those of you who have been around for more than 3 weeks probably are already familiar with. This implements a series of attacks that are pretty funny. And in this case, since all of you were wondering where it was, we can do a location tracking. And if this thing still works, you'll see it's right there, back here by my good friend Ranga. Okay? So those of you that were trying to find it earlier, spoiler alert, there you go. Okay? What this device does is implement the end chain of a very, very cool attack called a honeypot attack. The first attack was, I'm going to put up an access point called free public Wi-Fi. You're going to connect to it because you want free Wi-Fi, right? But that only connects a few people. It's not really that cool. So what they do is they come up with Hotspotter. Hotspotter has 13 different SSIDs, looks to see what you want, brings up that access point, more people connect. That's kind of cool, but I want to hack everybody. So we set up a karma access point. What the karma attack is every time you probe looking for something, it responds and says, that's me. So each one of the people connected to my device, connected with a different SSID, I simply responded to it. So if you're willing to connect to any open network, when I respond and say, oh yeah, that's me, you will connect, okay? Very simple attack, very short, very sweet, very funny if you're the hacker, not quite as funny if you're not. And just to make sure that I'm the strongest signal in the area, I tend to throw like a nice big amplifier on there just so I don't actually have to walk into the building. I can sit out in the car because, you know, I have a nice car. It's comfortable, nice seats. Okay, so when you look at this device, right now, even though I turned off the Karma feature, there are still 3 devices connected to me. One of them is mine because I've been managing it. And of course, just because I had to use the marketing department line earlier, here is Anita Pandy, our VP of marketing, and Ksenia Kaufman, who is also in the marketing department. So thank you both very much for your part in my demo. So we can see a whole list of 29 different people have connected to me at one point or another. So we can pick on somebody, I don't know, Ryan and his MacBook Air. We can take a quick look, and he's tried to connect to multiple different networks, and he ended up connecting to me. We can actually go through and just pick one at random. So here is an Apple device that's connected to me right now because I guess a few of you decided it'd be fun to connect to. And we see this device is connected, and we can do a location track on him and see this Apple device is, oh, even better. That's out in BDNA, so we should probably turn that access point off when I'm done talking. So Pineapple's a very funny attack, right? The whole idea is, be quiet you, I'm not done. The whole idea is that although a whole bunch of WIPS systems that are integrated with access points will look for somebody stealing your SSID, if I put up the SSID that you're using and you connect, obviously other systems are going to see that as an interfering event. It's going to show up as an evil twin attack. It's going to be, you know, blocked, attacked, whatever they can try to do. But a Pineapple, an evil twin attack like that, is done without ever spoofing your SSID. So all the integrated systems don't view this as a threat, right? When you disconnect from the main network and you connect to something else, most of the other vendors that make security products don't consider that a threat. You want to connect to your hotspot? That's fine. We see that as a policy breach, even a potential attack against your organization. I can go into details, but I got like the choke cut off already, so I'm not going to. We can talk about it at lunch. There's all kinds of attacks. As soon as you connect to me, you're on a local area network with a hacker, and I control your internet connection, and you can probably guess that it's all downhill from there. Just because not all of you have been smiling, clapping, and laughing, I can tell that I haven't quite hit the point yet. You know, real security is fun, but all of you are really concerned about auditing and PCI compliance, right? So we have a whole bunch of built-in canned reports for all kinds of various different compliancy reports and things like that. You can automatically schedule these to run. You can automatically have them emailed to you, to your marketing person, to your auditing firm, to whoever you want. You can even go through, customize these to have the information that you want. And I can even run super quickly one report and then show you what it looks like. It looks like a pop-up blocker. All right, so here's a report. It's a base PDF report. What we call these are executive style reports. It's got the time and date that it was made for, from this date to this date. We've got a report for AirTight Networks. In this case, it's the top of the location tree. You can run the reports per location as you wish. We've got a nice table of contents built in. Excuse me. A relevant PCI requirements, how this report helps. And then far more importantly, you can actually get into the meat of the report, where it's going to give you a categorized violation summary for each thing that you have violated policy on. In this case, we get down to test for presence of wireless access points by using a quarterly scanner. There's been 6 incidents. There's been 1 rogue access point, 4 misassociating authorized clients, 1 soft mobile hotspot access point, and a partridge in a pear tree. So you can see that this is a whole bunch of badness distilled into a nice report with pretty charts and graphs that you can hand off to your auditors who really don't actually know what they're doing. They just want a report from you. I mean, all auditors know what they're doing. Not only do we include what's going on, we include the severity, we explain the threat to you, and we make a recommended remediation. Obviously, for the rogue access point, you've got two options. You can unplug it, you can use the automated intrusion prevention, and I suppose a third option for really, really slow response is a baseball bat. Okay? All of these options are yours, and we will provide all of them except for the baseball bat, one I don't think is listed yet, but perhaps in the next patch release. And since Hemant is standing behind me, I'm going to go ahead and take my leave, and thank you very much.